So a common question I get is just a lot of people have a very particular situation where they're very interested in one particular guy, where they're like, how do I make this guy like me? It's like, what can I do to make this guy like me? Now I think of that language and I find that very interesting because a lot of people say, what can I do to make him like me? Like it's very forceful. And when people come from this forceful nature, what tends to happen is that it can actually push people away. Like, have you ever been in a situation where you've had a friend and they want to hang out with you constantly, and often more than not, when they want to hang out with you and hang out with you and hang out with you, you just kind of feel like, hey, like, please, like, is there something else that you want? Like, I'm a bit worried. So generally speaking, whenever you feel like you're forcing something, this is why I say you can't force love, you know, and you often can't fix problems while you're standing in it. So what I want to do is I want to give you 3 commitments that are not commitments to a guy or are not commitments to him, but are commitments to yourself and to understanding of life and love that will, if you do these and if you understand these commitments, what's actually going to happen is you're going to naturally attract this guy that you want. And you can use this not just on a guy, but you can also use this if you're networking, for example, or if you want someone to be more interested in you in general. These commitments are commitments you make for yourself, but in turn, what happens is they work on other people. The first commitment I want to say is I want you to, with me, I'm not saying we're doing this alone, is I want you with me to commit to empathy. And what I mean by empathy is just the idea of, I'm going to call this the universal law of friendship, is that people like people who make them feel good. And the best way to do that is through empathy. So if you want a quick tip on how to do that, sometimes just an easy sentence, like if you start a sentence with the word so you, often that immediately clicks in that empathy. So if someone is complaining about their day, you can just say, oh, so you feel like you've had a bad day, and they'll feel like they've connected with you because you've then reflected what they've said back to you and they feel heard. Now, if you were to say something like, yeah, we've all been there, that might be empathy, but sometimes people feel like no one else has the same problems they do. Have you ever had someone who's tried to relate to you and you've had this problem, and you're like, bro, like, I just want you to listen to me. Like, please. It's the same thing. Like, some people feel like their problems are very unique, which is true because they're a unique person. So the best way you can do that is to say, oh, so you feel this way. But generally speaking, when you commit to empathy, you're committing to understanding the other person and making them feel good first. What I find is that a lot of people, even if they're with a partner and their partner is moving away from them, they often try to force it. So they're often talking to their partner about how to make it happen. Like, you know, when are we going to hang out? What are we going to do stuff? Like, when are you going to make me feel good? And it's all about me, 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 me. It's all about receiving. So when you commit to empathy, you're actually committing to making the other person feel good first. And that in turn makes them feel good about you because people like people who like them. The second commitment is I want you to commit to owning your sexuality. This is something that a lot of people there's a whole bunch of slut shaming things online. When I talk about owning your sexuality, it's owning where you're at. So if you're someone who's very sexually abundant, who enjoys it, then that is part of who you are. But if you're someone who is at a level where, you know, you're still learning about it, maybe you're a bit shy, maybe, you know, you had no experience, you know, trying to force things to happen, trying to be something for someone else that you're not is, well, that's where people get used, is because they're trying to live up to someone else's standards, and then people know that, and at a subconscious level, they can try and take advantage of that. So what I mean by committing to understanding your own sexuality, all I say is try and learn where you're at, and if we're working together, I can, you know, help you with this, but know where you're at and don't try and change what it is just to get a certain outcome. Like, for example, I have people that I coach that, you know, they come to me saying, hey, how can I make a guy how can I say to a guy that I'm not going to sleep with him until he commits to me monogamously? And then I talk to them and I talk to them and I talk to them, and what they really want is actually someone that they can explore the depths of sexuality with, and they're actually afraid of, if they were to do that, they were to actually lose themselves. And most of the time it's like there's this disconnect, and then what happens is other people feel this disconnect. It's like, you know, if you don't know yourself, then other people can't really get to know you as much, and that creates a cognitive dissonance. It's like two kids fighting over a piece of candy. In the end, no one gets the candy, and those kids end up upset, unless the mum comes in and just takes the candy. The last commitment I want you to commit to is committing to desire. And what I mean by desire is, well, sure, People like people who make them feel good, and people like people who know themselves. But desire is about curiosity. So this is about leaving things unsaid. This is about dropping hints about who you are while you're speaking to a guy, and not having to just blurt your entire personality out. Because often what you find, if you try and tell someone everything about yourself, it feels like it's too much too soon. So instead, think of it like Hansel and Gretel with like breadcrumbs. You know, dropping breadcrumbs, you're essentially going to lead the other person through your personality so they can experience you, very much like you'd maybe experience a banquet where food comes to you one at a time. You don't get everything at once because then it feels really overwhelming. It's the same in relationships. So if same with dating as well. So you're going to commit to desire by only dropping bits of your personality at a time, and that in turn with making them, you know, like themselves and feeling good about themselves around you, and you owning who you are, that's going to get them so intrigued that they're going to want to learn more about you. And that's what really like gets him hooked, as part of the company name is called. It's like, that's pretty much what it comes down to in a nutshell. So that's pretty much how to make him like you. I hope you do this not for him, but for yourself, because that's another thing. If you do it for him, then it's still coming from like a taking thing, and people feel like you're taking, and that really doesn't work out. Because, you know, maybe they want you to take them in some way, but if they're feeling like, you know, it's out of your interest and not their interest, that's when the walls go up. Or unless they're naive, just throwing that out there. So if you did like this video, make sure to leave a like, because if you like this video, then I like you. And also it really helps me learn if you like this video or not, so I can make more of it. And make sure to subscribe for more videos about life and love and how the two come together. Until next time, make sure to just own who you are. Live authentically and figure out what that means for you. That's it.